Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of The Democratic View. I'm the hostess. My name is Phyllis Italiano. Someday I'm going to say, and I don't really like that name, Phyllis. I've always wanted to say that. Anyway, today my guest is an old friend and somebody that we know who is a real, I would say, pillar of our community. His name is Irace, and he is an attorney here in our own town of East Hampton. Welcome, Carl. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the praise. A pillar of our community is quite flattering.
Well, I mean, as far as if you need somebody, if you have a problem, you know, you're the guy.
Thank you.
You know, that you can go to for help.
My phone line's open. I'm a local attorney. I handle a lot of cases that are often public interest cases or criminal justice cases, criminal cases, and some other municipal work and transactional work too. But my heart is in the cases that I have to put the heart into.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that that you and I have sort of been in harmony about lately is this attempt to open up. And by the way, this isn't the first time these people have tried to open this up. Is a car wash right by what I call my favorite place in the world, the dump. You know, the recycling center, where I go, maybe twice a week. And the thought of having a car wash there, which would not only just increase the traffic, but for me, being a water quality person, I worry so much. So Carl, tell me something about what you think about this proposal.
It is a proposal to put what the town code calls a major car wash and a retail operation in between the entrance road and the exit road to the dump or the recycling center or the solid waste facility. Those are the terms that, depending on where you look, those terms are used interchangeably to describe the place that we would call the dump or the recycling center. And it's a huge issue. It's a huge issue.
I mean, some people, I guess, can afford to have their garbage picked up for them, but I cannot.
Well, I'm glad you raised that. There are studies out there, and I haven't been aware of one in East Hampton, but there was a study in Southampton that took a percentage of the number of self-haulers, people that bring their own waste to the dump. And in Southampton town, this report showed that the this percentage of self-haulers in Southampton town was significantly higher than all of the other towns in Suffolk County, but not quite as high as East Hampton, which has the highest number of self-haulers of any place in any town in Suffolk County. And if I were to try to remember it, and don't quote me on this, but I think it was about 60% of East Hampton town residents self-haul. So that's how important this access to the dump or recycling center is. If 60% of the people are using it, that's a lot of volume, and it is a critical resource. I mean, there's no other public area that is so heavily used by our community.
I couldn't agree with you more, because I always call it my favorite place. It's because every time I go, and I go almost twice a week, because sometimes I have cat litter, or I have a lot of cans, and I always want to make sure that, that I'm putting everything in the proper places, what
it takes
goes
time
where.
to get it right. And recycling is hugely important. We should do another show on recycling sometime.
Oh boy, you're not kidding. As a matter of fact, there was a show one time on recycling, so that when I empty my cat food cans, I know I have to wash them out, because I saw it once on LTV, that you had to wash the cans, that you couldn't just put a dirty can in. So I'm very aware, and I recycle everything. Everything
so
I
important.
possibly can, I recycle. Every bit of little plastic that's wrapped around a little bottle, I recycle because I can't. It's my earth, and I have to take care of it. And that recycling center is so important to so many people. And when you go, you see this guy, oh, hi, how are you, and, it's
Always
almost
run
a
into
social.
somebody you know. That's
It's
true.
almost a social
There are people
place.
that definitely hang out there, and that's great. I mean, I've had my moments there too. And I'm not even talking about the people that love Caldor East, or whatever we
Right.
call it now. But
Yeah, that's what they used to call it, right? But the thought of putting some huge kind of, which I don't even see where they had the room to do it, and it's unbelievable that they would want to create more traffic, that there would be, in this day and age where we now know that our water is in jeopardy, that we have, I don't know about you, but I'm on the Suffolk County Board of Health reports, and I get as many as 68, I think, last summer, of places where there was places that there were, incredible blooms of different kinds of algae, and you're looking at people not disposing of waste as best they can, and how many, we know, septic systems even that need to be replaced. So why are we going to have some place where they're going to have this water running off, and no matter how they try to classify it as being water being reused, there will be runoff. There will.
there'll be runoff, and the application currently is to have a holding tank that recycles water until the water is too dirty to use even to wash cars. And then that sludge is kept in another tank. And eventually a truck will come and pump that out. And assuming nothing spills from that and there's no accident with the truck, it gets past Town Line Road. And, are we supposed to believe it's not our problem? I mean, that goes somewhere. And I think the public has a right to know where. Is it going somewhere else on Long Island? Is it going somewhere upstate? I think we have an absolute right to know that. I think we have a right to know how often these tankers are going to come and pump this out. I think we have a right to know all of that information, and that information is not public yet. Wow. The board hasn't demanded it. Sure, there are other county or state permits that are involved with that, but the public should know how, where's this going to go? And, also from a marketing standpoint, just if this were my business, I think it's an odd place for a car wash without getting into site plan review standards, which I'd love to talk about. But that stretch of Springs Fireplace Road, look at all the comp plans and hamlet studies. It is a dirty, dusty stretch of road with the gravel pit and the sand pit and all of the dust around there. It just seems like an unmarketable, tough location to run a business when people would drive a car in and drive it back out into the dust. But that's not something that the planning board would review. They would review traffic, circulation. They have every right to inspect water usage, circulation of pumping and haul out. Where are the other agencies on this? Where does the health department feel? Where do they see this going? Health department or at DEC about the wastewater? Where does it go? And I think that's something that the public needs to know. I don't know. It's not part of the application. The applicant says it's proprietary and we can't get it, but I think the board has a right to ask for it and not proceed until it gets it. But then there are the urgent issues that I think are really the hot topics in this application have always been, how is this going to obstruct, how badly is this going to obstruct the public's access to the recycling center? That's it. Because we've all seen car washes, and whether it's the one in Hampton Bays or Southampton or Amagansett or anywhere else, you get a sunny Saturday afternoon in April or October when it's not beach season, and we all know what it's like to see a line of cars waiting to get in, and if those cars back up into that dump entrance road, Maryland Avenue, how are the transfer trucks going to get in and out? How are the people going to get in and out? I mean, just how does it all work? And it can't. Also, there's another issue with the use of that road, that it was back in 1998 and 99, there was an application for a dog kennel to go there. And right around that time, the town board closed the Acabonic Highway access to the dump. And so they wanted to ensure that the public always had permanent, unobstructed access. So there's a town board resolution that says reserved for solid waste facility use, and that's on Maryland Avenue, right at this location. So, it doesn't seem like there's any equivocal way to try to dance around that. Reserved for this one particular use is pretty specific. And I don't care if you use Black's Law Dictionary, Webster's, or the Oxford English Dictionary. Reserved means reserved. There's no dancing around it.
Well,
So there are a lot of issues, and the public is really upset about this. I have my client in this matter is a neighborhood organization, and they are upset. They're really upset that this could, I mean, I think it's all but certain to increase the volume of traffic on Maryland Avenue and Ohio Avenue exiting, and on Springs Fireplace Road, but most importantly, on the intersections. How much do those turning movements obstruct flowing traffic? People going onto Springs Fireplace Road from Ohio, off Springs Fireplace Road onto Maryland. Those are all issues that the planning board needs to have the correct data on, and they don't. And another traffic issue that comes up is the level of service. And the planning board doesn't have any data about changes in the level of service on those entrance roads. The only thing they have is a change in the capacity for Springs Fireplace Road, which is, I'd say it's probably, other than Montauk Highway, the busiest road in town. Maybe 114's busier, maybe not.
No.
But I mean,
No, believe me, 114 is not busier than where this thing is.
it definitely has fewer turnoffs. So even if there is a higher volume on it, traffic moves more swiftly and less obstructed. So even if there were more cars on it, the volume it's not as congested. So these are huge issues, but the critical detail that about this that's also not being discussed is these changes in the level of service. There's a bus depot plan to go into what used to be.
Well, I was going to bring that up.
The waste
I
plant.
mean, come on.
They have a traffic report that says the intersection of Springs Fireplace Road and North Main, all the way down by 3 Mile Harbor Road where it comes into that little triangle.
Right.
The current delay is already about 60 seconds. I think it was 59 seconds.
Longer than that, believe me.
That's a level F. Level of service is F. You can't get lower than that. But if the bus depot is built there, that delay will double to 158 seconds. Not exactly, almost double, from about 60 seconds to about 120 seconds. And that's going to, just from one thing alone. So, there are going to be a lot of cumulative impacts about the traffic and turning movements on and off of Springs Fireplace Road, but also at Abraham's Path and North Main, all the way north and south of this, because those are the next intersections. Queen too. These are the issues that aren't just haven't been reviewed by the board. I don't know if it's coming, but I think everybody has. The public should be concerned about this, because this is something that's really going to affect their quality of life by obstructing traffic, clogging circulation. That's to the most heavily trafficked public facility in town.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't go there and not realize that it is, and then you're right, the buses are going to go there, and they're going to actually be having a little workshop there, but
It's going to be an educational center.
An
sure.
educational
And
center,
then
yes.
if you
The
go
BOCES
south,
is planned now too, and is
two
involved.
lots going south of there, so it's kind of 4 lots in a row They have commercial truck parking and some other sort of parking there. So all of those sites are going to, are proposed to develop right on Springs Fireplace Road. So where's the cumulative study of that? Cumulative impacts, cumulative traffic is also an issue, and that's something that the public needs to let our municipal officials, the planning board, the town board, let them know you're concerned about this. It's really important because without that feedback, I represent a group of people, and they're great people, and it's a great issue, but it's a public issue. It's not just me and my client, which is a group. It's more than that. This will affect everybody in town that uses that road, everybody in town that uses the dump, which is 64% of people.
And especially everybody in Springs, and it's like another assault on Springs, which I am convinced, I'm sorry, I am going to say it, I don't believe that the town cares one bit about Springs. And it's been, something I have worried about for a long time, that the most densely populated hamlet in this area is almost ignored. And this will affect us very deeply.
Springs Fireplace
Yes.
Road is the artery to get from
Absolutely.
East Hampton Village up into Springs, because it goes right up the middle of Springs, and it doesn't wind, and it's not as narrow as 3 Mile Harbor, and Accobonac is kind of too far to the west. This is where people get in and out of the village, and so many people live there year-round, live there seasonally, vacation there, because there are a lot of houses, a lot of great waterfront houses too that people vacation in, and they're going to come out and find a car wash clogging up their road, and we've been fighting this case.
And the truth of the matter is, which is really amazing, one of my really things that upset me is that we've done so long without it. Who needs it? What's the purpose of this? You can't tell me that the people who come out for a weekend are going to say, I'm going out there to get my car washed. That's not what they come out here for. They come out here to go to the beach.
Well, it's funny you mention that, because early on in this application, there was an idea that came out that a car wash that holds and hauls sludge is more environmentally friendly than having people wash cars in their driveway. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because this was covered by Newsday back in 2016 or 17 when this first came up. And I had a client from southeastern Nassau County who saw it on News 12 and Newsday, and he picked up the phone and he says, "You're a real salt of the earth, sensible guy." And he says, "Carl, that doesn't make any sense. Anybody that washes their own car knows how you do it. You fill up the bucket, what's that, 2 or 3 gallons? You wet the car, what's that, another few gallons? You turn off the hose. It's not like you leave it running. You soap up the car, and then you rinse it off. It's not like the hose is running for 20 minutes. It's using less water than the statistic that was put out there is so self-apparent. Also, the idea that you're holding this sludge that's, again, so dirty that you can't use it to wash a car, and you're trucking it somewhere where maybe it has an accident, maybe it spills, maybe there's some sort of error pumping into the truck.
Leakage.
I don't know. Leakage, anything could happen. But if people are washing their cars in their homes, you have the ordinary biological processes where things get filtered through the sand, and it's diffused throughout the entire town.
That's right.
So the premise that a car wash is more environmentally friendly than diffuse individual residential car washing, it doesn't make sense. And that idea is something that statistic that attempts to advocate that car washes are more environmentally friendly is definitely an industry statistic. If you look that up, you'll find it on Car Wash Association websites.
Look, I can tell you that I drive around Springs a lot, and I can tell you, I don't think I've seen 2 cars washed since I live here in 2002. There are people just really don't wash their cars. What happens is the rain comes and the rain washes your car, and better is the snow, because then the snow you can really clean it off a little bit like that. So I mean, it's crazy.
It is, and also, we protect our vegetation so the vegetation can do its job naturally and diffusely, and their roots and their leaves and grasses and stems, those all have functions. That's why we're planting buffers. That's why we have easements. It's to absorb things. Obviously, the closer you get to a body of water, the less distance you have to groundwater. It gets more sensitive.
That's right.
But we've zoned for that. We have zoning ordinances and other planning tools that address those issues. So the idea that a car wash industry statistic is something that we should be basing decisions on, especially when it just defies common sense. I think the public needs to know that, and that hasn't been in front of the board, and the board doesn't seem to be questioning it either. I mean, it's incumbent upon our discretionary administrative officials to ask the questions for the public. They're our representatives of government.
Now, by the way, this isn't the first...
And we haven't had a public hearing on this. They may do that.
Well, by the way, what I was going to mention is this is not the first time this car wash has come up. It was also going to be over by Wainscott at one point. Am I not correct on that?
That was a different car wash, and I represented a similar organization that had some overlapping people, but it's geographically different. There's different people involved now. But that car wash was proposed by a totally different applicant for what was the Swamp nightclub or the Storeroom nightclub property that now is dedicated parkland.
Right. So it never went anywhere either.
Yeah, and you know what's kind of funny? During that hearing, there was during the public hearing on that, there was a comment that the applicant made, because somebody said, "Is there anywhere else you could put this other than probably the most heavily trafficked part of the most heavily trafficked road in town? Is there anywhere else you can put this?" And the guy said, "No, nowhere else has the volume to make this a viable business." So how is the dump entrance, which is on Springs Fireplace Road, less traffic than Montauk Highway, less traffic than Wainscott part of Montauk Highway, and also it's halfway up. I mean, it's almost all the way to Springs. Like, that's how far away it is from the traffic. It's just hard to imagine how this is, commercially viable to anyone. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's just a question that people ask me out on the street. I say, look, I'm opposing this at the planning board level. There are standards, there are factors that we weigh, but what you're talking about here, these are great questions. Great questions.
So if you are opposed to this, what should you do? What should I as a citizen of Springs who does not want to see this put at what I consider to be the entrance to Springs, what do I do? How do I let the people or the powers that be know how I feel?
The First Amendment gives you certain rights. The First Amendment gives you the right to petition your government. And what does that mean? It means write the town board, write the planning board, send them letters, send them emails, talk to them on the line at the grocery store. These are members of our community. They are representatives of us. And I think that's the number one thing. Another thing, the First Amendment also gives you the right to assemble. There's going to be a rally on Maryland Avenue where we're going to have signs and we're going to call public attention to this issue. The media is going to be there. We don't have a date yet, but it's coming. And then those two ideas come together at the public hearing. The public hearing, which date hasn't been set yet, when that happens, turning out the public to let our government know, to let our planning board know, these traffic issues are too much of a problem for us. This circulation isn't going to work, and it's going to cause problems for me using the dump. That's what our people need to do. They need to speak with their feet and speak with their voices and be loud and clear.
Okay, and I just want to bring up one more point, because we're getting close to the end here also, is that no matter what they tell you about the fact that they will be toiling away the dirty water, no car, if you've ever been to a car wash, comes out dry. It's always dripping wet, and there's always got to be water running off, and that water running off will also get into our sole source aquifer eventually.
Which is important, because even if there's a catch basin to catch that specific point is such a critical part of our aquifer. That's right along the Moreno Ridge, right there. That location is where it changes from level 4 to level 5. And it's a very sensitive location. So even if there's a catch basin for these chemicals and these soaps, I mean, this is the location where it's most likely to get into groundwater.
Oh, you know, water quality, I have said this so many times, even on the show, when you can't drink the water, what you have is nothing. We would all have to pack up and leave East Hampton if we can't drink the water. And that
Island-wide, that's an issue. That's why these...
I know.
You know, it doesn't matter anywhere on Long Island, our drinking water source is vulnerable, or worse. I mean, we just can't keep going digging
right.
deeper and deeper with our wells. I mean, we've got to stop this now, because otherwise, you know, what are your kids and grandkids going to drink?
You know, I've often tried to explain to people when that wonderful ice sheet came down and pushed up Long Island and melted, that water that it left behind is what we are now using as our water source out here. So we have to be very careful with it because it's vulnerable.
And you can hold it and haul it away, but sludge is sludge.
I couldn't agree with you more. Thank you for coming again, Carl. I appreciate it.
It's great to be back. Thank you.
One more time.